Hi guys. What I'm currently doing is scratching Missy. She comes over while I sit in this chair and she screams until I give her attention. Huh, Missy? Do you scream? Are you a screamer? Oh, she just flopped onto the ground. Okay, I'm not gonna pet the cat this whole video. Um, okay. Obviously, last video I was losing it a little bit. I feel like I'm losing it. Hi Missy. I've been trapped inside for a while. I'm sure you guys have too. I try to go for walks and go outside and do stuff in the yard, but humans are social creatures, and so we crave being around other people, and that's just not something that we can really do right now. So that's kind of difficult for all of us, I think. And obviously, what it does to me is it just makes me really tired. I've been exhausted. And it makes me giggle inappropriately at like zombies and people being eaten and stuff. Huh, Missy? Huh? It's inappropriate. You're so cute. She's very tiny. Oh, her ears are cold. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say to you guys is if I seem a bit subdued today, it's number one because I'm exhausted. The way that this is kind of taking a toll on my mental health is it's just making me exhausted. I could not get myself out of bed before 11 o'clock today. And we also, my grandmother and I just found out from a family member of ours that someone who is not directly related to us, but is related to us through a marriage, that a husband and wife have COVID-19, and one of them is in the hospital for it. So this is all going to impact us in some way. This is how it is, I guess, finally, really viscerally encroaching upon my life. So the best thing to do is to control what you can. Wash your hands, stay inside, try to get some work done, do as much as possible. I have found it hard to concentrate on my dissertation, which is work that I actually really enjoy and that I actually really want to do. So I can only imagine what it's like for you guys having to take classes online. If you hear little crunching noises, that is Missy. The cat food bowl is also right here, and she has decided that she is hungry. So yeah, anyway, that's why I may seem subdued and why I was like, I need red lipstick today. Okay. This section of The Girl with All the Gifts is not as action-packed as the previous section, but a lot of really, really interesting things happen. We start to see more about the characters and get to know them better, and we also get to see some things that are happening out in the larger world that until now humans didn't really know about. Or if they did know, they were dead. Okay. So last time we ended with a discussion of the Hungry, who was a mother and was pushing the baby carriage. And so I thought it would be interesting to start this time with the next very fascinating Hungry that our wayward group comes across, which is the one that is in the care home that they take refuge in, and is, of all things, singing. So this is pretty much the entirety of chapter 37, which starts on page 197. I'm going to skip around between two different sections here, and I'll guide you through those. So I'm going to start at the very beginning of chapter 35 on page 197. And this is when Melanie is kind of like running from Dr. Caldwell. What, Missy? What? Oh, I know, but you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait. Oh, you're so cute. Does that feel good? I'm trying to do work, Missy. The students need me. You can't be an attention hog all the time. Okay. This is when Melanie is running from Dr. Caldwell, which seems perfectly reasonable. Carolyn Caldwell also follows the sound of the strange voice, Missy. She is aware, of course, that it's not test subject number one who's singing, but equally she's sure that whoever it is doesn't represent a threat until she sees him. The man sitting on the bed looks like the punchline to a bad joke. He's dressed in a hospital gown that's fallen open, exposing the nakedness beneath. Old wounds crisscross his body, deep troughs in the flesh of his shoulders, his arms, his face mark where he's been bitten. Except that bitten doesn't seem to cover it. He's been fed on. Lumps of his physical substance torn away and consumed. Yeah. Scratches and tears ruck his chest and stomach, where the hungries who partially devoured him grabbed him and held on. Missy. The 2 middle fingers of his right hand have been bitten off at the second joint, a defense wound, Caldwell assumes, sustained when he tried to push a hungry away from him, and it bit down on his hand. The blackly comic touch is the bandage on his elbow. This man came to Wainwright House with something trivial like bursitis and, as many people do, experienced complications while he was being treated. In this case, the complications were that hungries feasted on his flesh and made him one of them. How lovely. He's still singing, seemingly unaware of Melanie standing directly in front of him, of Caldwell in the doorway of the room. The raven croaked as she sat at her meal. It's so opposite to her thoughts. Caldwell is thrown for a moment, but he's not answering her. He's only singing the last line of the quatrain. She knows the song vaguely. It's The Woman Who Rode Double, an old folk ballad as depressing and interminable as most of its type, exactly the sort of song she'd expect a hungry to sing, except they don't, ever. Another thing they don't do is look at pictures, but this one is. As he sings, he holds in his lap a wallet of the kind that has a loose leaf insert for credit cards. Holy crap, Missy. This one holds not cards, but photographs. The hungry is trying to flick through them with one of the remaining fingers of his right hand. His movements are intermittent, and the gaps in which he sits still are very long. Each failure to turn to the next image elicits another line of the song. Okay. Oh, Missy, you're making this very difficult. I'm getting hair in my mouth because I'm trying to pet you, and you're like making me go sideways. She's very insistent. Okay. I'm going to skip the rest of 198 and most of 199, and I'm going to start with the bottom third of 199 now. All kinds of sin I have rioted in, Caldwell sings, and now the judgment must be. The hungry shudders, a quick convulsion running through it. Caldwell steps hurriedly back, swiveling the gun to point it at the center of the thing's chest. At this range, she can't miss, but the hungry doesn't charge. It just moves its head from side to side as though it's trying to locate the source of the sound. So, it rasps in that almost not their voice. So. Leave him alone, Melanie whispers fiercely. He's not hurting you. But I secured my children's souls, Caldwell croons, so pray, my children, for me. So, the hungry croaks, so. Get out of the way, Sergeant Parks says. His hand is on Caldwell's shoulder, brusquely pushing her aside. Fee, the hungry says. Parks fires once. A neat black circle, like a cased mark, appears in the center of the hungry's forehead. It slips down sideways, rolling off the bed. Ancient stains, black and red and gray, mark the place where it has sat for so long. Obviously, I'm still petting a cat, and also obviously, and she's being like very uncooperative. Missy, obviously, this is another instance of a hungry performing behavior that seems out of character for them because what the general accepted science is that hungries are over here, humans are over here, humans became hungries, but that they are two separate species. The thing only connecting them is that hungries used to be humans and therefore have a human form. This hungry is again like the mother that was pushing the baby carriage and like Melanie herself, questioning that. It's just another instance of the text kind of underlining this fact. And what's interesting here is that so we could have attributed the motions of the mother hungry with the little baby carriage. It's just kind of like a kind of muscle memory. What's interesting here, however, is there seems to be an indication that there's still some kind of higher thought happening, at least for this particular hungry. Number one, it's reciting the lines to a song. You might also be able to attribute that to some extent to muscle memory, but it's also, whenever Dr. Caldwell sings back, trying to say the name of someone, and the name it's trying to say is Sophie. Apparently, maybe his daughter, his wife, somebody that was important to him while he was living, and apparently who he sang with or sang the songs to. And there's some kind of memory there that seems to linger beyond what is seen as the human death of the subject and then the rising life of the hungry that cordyceps creates. And Caldwell and Melanie are fascinated by this, and Sergeant Parks kind of ruins it because he just shoots the hungry. And what's interesting is that this hungry does not pose any kind of threat at all. It does not seem to be acting at all like a hungry. It's literally just sitting in bed singing and trying to flip through pages and look at pictures, which are a trigger to memory too. So it questions whether there isn't some kind of higher order thought also that hungries are capable of. It's also just kind of like a really sad image. There's nothing funny to me about this one like there was with the mother hungry. Okay. And then I want to talk about Miss Justineau's confession because I think it's kind of shocking to read. And this is when she goes up on the roof of Wainwright House with Sergeant Parks, and he thinks, oh, we're going to bang. First off, Sergeant Parks, stay in your lane. Okay. And Miss Justineau is instead like having this really intense kind of like emotional moment, and he is being an idiot. Okay, so this starts on page 220. I don't know if you guys can hear all that jingling, but that's Missy. She wanted to make her presence known today. So I'm going to start on the bottom of page 220, and I'm going to read through 222 because this is Miss Justineau kind of narrating an experience that she had right before the breakdown. I was driving along this road in Hertfordshire between South Mimms and Potter's Bar, places in England. A few houses every now and then, but mostly miles of hedges, then a pub, then some more hedges. I wasn't expecting, it was late, way after midnight. I didn't think anyone at all would be out there, still less. Someone ran out into the road in front of me. He came through a gap in one of the hedges, I think. There wasn't anywhere else he could have come from. He was just there, suddenly, and I hit the brakes, but I was already right on top of him. It didn't make a bit of difference. I must have been going over 50 when I hit him, and he just bounced off the car like a ball. I stopped a long way up the road, 100 yards or so. I got out and came running back. I was hoping, obviously, that he was dead, no question. A boy, about 8 or 9 years old, maybe. I'd killed a child. Broken him in pieces inside his skin so his arms and legs didn't even bend the right way. I think I stayed there a long time. I was shaking and crying, and I couldn't get up. It felt like a long time. I wanted to run away, and I couldn't even move. She looks at the sergeant now, but the darkness hides her expression almost completely. Only the twisted line of her mouth shows. It reminds them right then of the line of his scar. But then I did, she says. I did move. I got up and I drove away, locked my car in the garage, and went to bed. I even slept, Parks. Can you believe that? I never did make up my mind what to do about it. If I confessed, I'd most likely go to jail, and my career would be over. It wouldn't bring him back, so what would be the point? Of course, I knew damn well what the point was, and I picked up that phone about 6 or 7 times in the next couple of days, but I never dialed. And then the world ended, so I didn't have to. I got away with it. Got away clean. Parks waits a long moment until he's absolutely certain that Justineau's monologue is finished. The truth is, for most of the time he's been trying to figure out what exactly it is that she's trying to tell him. Maybe he was right the first time about where they were heading, and Parks, I could strangle him. And Justineau airing her ancient laundry is just a sort of palate cleanser before they have sex. No comment. Probably not, but you never know. In any case, the countermove is to a confession... Hi, Missy. To a confession is an absolution, unless you think the sin is unforgivable. Parks doesn't. Petting the cat. It was an accident, he tells her, pointing out the obvious, and probably you would have ended up doing the right thing. You don't strike me as the sort of person who just lets shit slide. He means that as far as it goes. One of the things he likes about Justineau is her seriousness. He freaking flat out hates frivolous, thoughtless people who dance across the surface of the world without looking down. Yeah, but you don't get it, Justineau says. Why do you think I'm telling you all this? I don't know, Parks admits. Why are you telling me? Okay. Justineau steps away from the parapet wall and squares off against him, range 0 meters. It could be erotic, but somehow it's not. No comment again. I killed that boy, Parks. If you turn my life into an equation, the number that comes out is -1. That's my lifetime score. You understand me? And you and Caldwell and Private Ginger fucking Rogers, meaning Gallagher. My God, whether it means anything or not, I will die my own self before I let you take me down to -2. She says the last words right in his face, sprays him with little flecks of spit. This close up, dark as it is, he can see her eyes. There's something mad in them, something deeply afraid, but it's damn well not afraid of him. She leaves him with the bottle. It's not what he was hoping for, but it's a pretty good consolation prize. Whatever, enjoy yourself, Parks. What's interesting about this moment with Justino is we actually start to see some of why she feels the way towards the hungry children in the experiment that she actually felt. And what that partially boils down to for her is that she has, as she notes, a -1 in her register of list of deeds. She has killed someone. She sees that as a mark against herself. And so it has made her more thoughtful about, like, am I doing the right thing? Who counts as a person? Was I right to leave that little boy behind? How do I atone for this terrible sin, even after the breakdown, as it's so aptly called, of the human world as we know it? I don't know where the cat went. She disappeared. So we start to see the reason why she is so attached to Melanie. And why she becomes so protective over her. First off, this boy and Melanie and the children in the experiment were right around the same age. The little boy was 8 or 9, Justino tells us, and Melanie herself is 10. And apparently she's also a little bit small for her age, so she looks maybe a little bit younger than she actually is. And so for Justino, saving her is a way of saving Miss Justino's self as well. By saving Melanie, protecting Melanie, she can try to balance out her scorecard, her cosmic scorecard, and try to be a good person. So that's part of her motivation and why she feels the way about Melanie that she does. So that's worth pointing out. I also want to talk about Melanie's assertion of self, which is really, really interesting. Let's go to pages... Oh, I found the cat. She's purring. That's why I was like, what? Ah, are you purring? I would pick you up, but you don't like to be picked up. I would show you them your cute little face, but then you would freak out. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I can't pick her up and show her in this video. She really hates being picked up. You hate it. Do you hate it? Yeah. Okay, Melanie's assertion of self, pages 229 through 230. If this is a little bit longer than usual, it's because of cat shenanigans. Okay. This is when our group of wayward, not heroes, anti-heroes are trying to figure out how they're going to get out of Wainwright House whenever they are surrounded by hungries who want to eat them, and they're also running out of E-blocker. And Melanie says, well, I can help you because the hungries don't recognize me as prey. And so Sergeant Parks, being the dick that he is, obviously, decides to kind of push on this to see if he can get her to admit why this is. So we're going to start at the top of page 229. He leans forward to look her in the eye. And you're not scared? Melanie hesitates. Of what? She asks him. Justino is amazed at that momentary pause. Yes or no would be equally easy to say, whether they were true or not. The pause means that that Melanie is scrupulous, weighing her words. It means she's trying to be honest with them. As if they've done a single thing, ever, to deserve that. Of the hungries, Parks says, like it's obvious. Melanie shakes her head. How come? They won't hurt me. No, why not? Enough, Justino snaps, but Melanie answers anyway, slowly, ponderously, as though the words are stones she's using to build a wall. They don't bite each other, and I'm the same as them, almost, close enough so that they don't get hungry when they smell me. Parks nods slowly. This is where the catechism has been leading all this time. He wants to know how much Melanie has already guessed, where her head is. He's working his way through the logistics. The same as them or almost the same? Which is it? Melanie's face is unreadable, but some powerful emotion flits across it, doesn't settle. I'm different because I don't want to eat anyone. No? Then what was that red stuff all over you when you jumped on board the Humvee day before yesterday? Looked like blood to me. Sometimes I need to eat people. I never want to. That's all you've got, kid? Shit happens. Another pause. Longer this time. It hasn't happened to you. Very well, very true, Parks admits. Still feels like we're splitting hairs, though. You're offering to help us against those things down there, when it seems to me that you'd want to be down there with them, looking up at us, waiting for the dinner bell to ring. So I guess that's what I'm asking you. Missy is back. Are you just circling the table? Why would you come back, and why would I believe you'd come back at all? For the first time, Melanie lets her impatience show. I'd come back because I want to, because I'm with you, not with them. And there isn't any way to be with them, even if I wanted to. Whatever concept she's reaching for, it eludes her for a moment. They're not with each other, not ever. Nobody answers her, but Parks looks happy with this, like she's got the secret password. She's in the club, the hopelessly outnumbered and surrounded by monsters club. Missy is insisting that I scratch her butt. That is what is happening right now. I'm with you, Melanie says again. And then, as if it needed saying, not you, really. I'm with Miss Justineau. This is interesting for a number of reasons. Number one, it's Melanie's assertion of her own self. What she essentially admits here is, yes, I am a hungry. I recognize that I am one. However, I'm not like the rest of them. I am different. They want to eat you. I feel the urge to eat you, but I don't want to harm you and eat you. Also, she notes that one of the interesting things that characters have noted about the Hungries continuously is that they don't seem to care about each other. They are mostly self-focused in that they're always just trying to find a meal. They don't really bother with each other very much. That, of course, is questioned by the mother who's pushing the baby carriage and by the Hungry who's singing, but let's follow that premise for a moment, that they really don't care about each other. Then they are lacking one of the key things that makes a human, which is that we are highly, as I said actually at the beginning of this video, we're highly social animals. We crave the presence of others, even if you're introverted, and I actually am pretty introverted to an extent. You still crave the presence of other people. Humans also, like for their own physical and mental health, often require a certain level of touch from other humans. There's studies out there about the healing powers physically and mentally of hugs. And so what Melanie says is those Hungries actually don't need that kind of social connection. I do. I'm with you. I see myself as part of this small little society that is trying to make its way back to Beacon, even if it's a pretty messed up little society that we have going here. I am part of the group, or at least I'm with Miss Justineau. I am a social creature with her. So it's that kind of social tie, too, that differentiates, in Melanie's eyes, her from the rest of the Hungries, that puts her somewhere in between. So I had mentioned in an early video, it's like you have the Hungries over here, and you have the humans over here. Melanie seems to be somewhere in the middle. And what that suggests is that the other children in her study were as well. So there's actually kind of like 3 species existing at the same time. This is really important, that we have human 1.0, we have Hungries, and then we have whatever Melanie and those children are right smack dab in the middle. Some kind of midway point. And that's really key to remember, especially we're going to find out more about why Melanie is the way that she is, and it's very strange. But keep that in mind, that she is some kind of amorphous thing that is in between. Oh, okay. And now I want to talk about the human capacity for evil in this novel, which is also something that is brought up a lot with Pandora opening the box of evil, and with what the humans do to each other and to the hungry children. So let's go to pages 244 through 245. Okay, and this is Miss Justino and Melanie having a kind of discussion because even while they're kind of on this journey, Melanie is constantly learning and observing, and eventually she starts asking Miss Justino questions, and Miss Justino like can't get out of teacher mode. She still kind of acts like as a teacher to Melanie, which I understand the urge to be like that. Okay, I'm going to start right at the top of page 244. They were trying to keep the hungries contained in the first few weeks after the infection appeared. So they're talking about like, why are there those blackout burn zones? But did it work? No, they were scared and they panicked. A lot of the people who should have been making the important decisions were infected themselves, or else they ran away and hid. The ones who left really didn't know what they were doing, but I'm not sure there was anything better they could have done. It was too late by then. All the evil shit they were afraid of had already happened, pretty much. The evil shit? Melanie queries. The hungries. Melanie contemplates this equation. It may be true, but she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it at all. I'm not evil, Miss Justino. Miss J is penitent. She touches Melanie's arm, gives her a brief but reassuring squeeze. It's not as nice as a hug, but also not as dangerous. I know you're not, sweetheart. I wasn't saying that, but I am a hungry. A pause. You are infected, Miss J says, but you're not a hungry because you can still think, and they can't. The distinction hasn't struck Melanie until now, or at least hasn't weighed much against the planetary mass of her realization, but it is a real difference. Does it make other differences possible? Does it make her not be a monster at all? Sorry, the phrasing was kind of weird there. These ontological questions come first and loom largest. Another, more practical one peeps out from behind them. Is that why I'm actually a crucially important specimen? Miss J makes a hurting face, then an angry one. That's why you're important to Dr. Caldwell's research project. She believes she can find something inside you that will help her to make medicine for everyone else, an antidote, so they can't ever be turned into hungries, or if they're turned, they can be changed back again. Melanie nods. She knows that's really important. She also knows that's not all the evils that struck this land had the same cause and origin. The infection was bad, so were the things that the important decision people did to control the infection, and so is catching little children and cutting them into pieces, even if you're doing it to try to make medicine that stops people being hungries. It's not just Pandora who had that inescapable flaw. It seems like everyone has been built in a way that sometimes makes them do wrong and stupid things, or almost everyone, not Miss Justino, of course. What's interesting here is that we can again make this kind of biblical connection, especially with everybody does wrong, but not Miss Justino, of course. We know at this point that Miss Justino has done wrong, but again, kind of relating Miss Justino to this kind of godlike Christ figure in the text. In Melanie's eyes, she can't do any wrong. She has not done any wrong. She is not part of this human mass of evil. This human massive evil that gives you the capacity to sin, in other words. And Melanie recognizes that this kind of evil is complicated, and I might end up sneezing from scratching the cat. I feel like I need to. Oh, that scared her. Did I scare you? What happened? Did I sneeze? Missy. She's like, I've had enough of this shit. Okay. I told you I'm allergic to cats. And Melanie realizes just because I'm a hungry, that doesn't mean I'm inherently evil. I haven't done anything bad. I did kind of do something bad whenever I bit those junkers, but that was to stop them from doing something evil, which was they were going to kill Miss Justino. So I haven't really done anything bad. She recognizes, however, that people before the breakdown did bad things, and that what Dr. Caldwell was trying to do in her experiments, cutting up children, because Melanie sees herself still as both a hungry and a child, that is a bad thing too. So this is something that's so great about how intelligent Melanie is as a character, is that she has this kind of complex thinking. She realizes it's not black and white, that there are these shades of gray to evil, these shades of gray to sin, and that it's a complex system. But of course, Miss Justino is perfect. She is a perfect being, at least in Melanie's eyes. Again, this is really important for the end of the novel. And then let's talk about something truly creepy, which is the fruiting hungry. As they enter London, they're very weirded out because what they discover is there's not as many hungries here as there should be, given the large population that London has. So where have some of them gone? Well, they discover where some of them have gone because some of them have full-on turned into plants. So let's go to page 250. I think this is really cool, but it's also really disturbing. I'm going to start right in the middle of page 250, and I'm going to read about right to the middle of page 251. But before I do that, I'm going to take a drink. Oh shit, I spilled water on the book. Well, everything is a mess. Oh, crap. Okay, whatever. Here we go. And then he sees what it is that the other three are looking at, and these thoughts slip from his mind. It's a hungry lying full length on the ground in an alcove formed by the entrance of a shop. I'm pretty sure this is from Gallagher's perspective. Sometimes they fall down and can't get back up when the rot inside them fucks up their nervous system to the point where it doesn't really work anymore. He's seen them sprawled on their sides, random shudders passing through them like jolts of electricity, their gray-on-gray eyes staring at the sun. Maybe that's what's happened to this one. But something else has happened to it, too. Its chest is broken wide open, forced open from within by... Gallagher has no idea what that thing is. A white column, at least 6 feet high, flaring at the top into a sort of flat, round pillow thing with fluted edges, and with bulbous growths on its side like blisters. The texture of the column is rough and uneven, but the blisters are shiny. If you tilt your head when you look at them, they've got an oil-on-water sheen to them. Jesus Christ! Which is pretty ironic, Helen Justino says in a kind of whisper. Oh boy, fascinating, Dr. Caldwell murmurs. Absolutely fascinating. If you say so, Doc, the Sarge says, but I'm thinking we should keep the hell away from it, right? Fearless or foolhardy, both apparently. Caldwell reaches out to touch one of the growths. Its surface indents are a little under the pressure of her finger, but fills out quickly to its original shape once she draws her hand back, so she decides to just poke it. I don't think it's very dangerous, she says. Not yet. When these fruits ripen, that may be a very different matter. Fruits? Justino echoes. She said it in exactly the same tone that Gallagher would have used. Fruits out of a dead man's rotten, broken open body? Where would you have to go to get sicker than that? Melanie squeezes in beside Gallagher, peers around his leg at the fallen hungry. He feels bad for her that she has to see this. It's not right for a little kid to be made to think about death, even if she's, dead. Kind of. Fruits, Caldwell repeats, firmly and with satisfaction. This, Sergeant, is the fruiting body of the hungry pathogen, and these pods are its sporangia. Each one is a spore factory full of seeds. And then Sarge says, they're its ball sacks. Okay. Sarge's idiocy aside. What's interesting is that we're seeing now one of the later forms of how cordyceps affects the human body. First, it turns everybody into a hungry, and then it seeks to propagate itself and to feed the fungus inside by biting and eating other humans. But eventually, apparently, they sprout into full-on fungal mushroom trees, and they start growing fruit. And the purpose of, on any kind of plant, of fruit, which is often something that we eat, like think of an apple or an orange, but the real purpose and the reason that fruits contain seeds is because they're the ways in which the plant tries to make more of itself. And so we see that the way in which these cordyceps-ridden bodies are now attempting to make more of themselves is by transforming into tree shrooms, tree fungal shrooms that create fruiting seed pods. And this is really fascinating because the line between human and plant here is just completely blown away. There is no difference at this point between the human which has become hungry, which has become a plant, right? It's like humans take on this kind of ecological plant-like life form now. There really isn't. I find it fascinating because there's no kind of clear breakdown now between the human body. I'm sorry, I keep rubbing my nose. My nose is like running ever since I sneezed from the cat. There's no difference now between the plant and the human. You can see a clear lineage of how humans would become plants at this point, which is fascinating. So it brings into question the whole kind of humans are at the top of the food chain now. Clearly they're not, because the hungries are. And the hungries are now becoming these trees. So these fruiting trees are now at kind of the apex of the flora and fauna kingdom in the world. And so the balance has been upset. Humans aren't at the top anymore. It's these plants that are. And we kind of find out how dangerous they actually are in this next section that I want to read, which is on pages 288 through 289. This is the real creepy part. They discover, what's really interesting is they discover one of the research lab / tanks. There were 2 that were sent out. One was named Charlie and one was named Rosie. And they discover Rosie in the middle of London, just like hanging out there, essentially fully intact. It's not running for some reason, but Sarge thinks that he can potentially fix it. And at one point, Caldwell has grabbed one of just like the little fruits right off the ground, stuck it in her, just stuck it in her pocket, and has casually been carrying it around. And Sarge kind of walks up over her shoulder while she's like examining it. Okay, and this is their conversation at the very end of the section that I had you guys read for today. You're saying these fruit things aren't dangerous, he asks her. Caldwell laughs. She can't help herself. Not at all, Sergeant, she assures him, unless the prospect of a planet-wide extinction event troubles you. His face, as open as a book, announces relief, then confusion, finally suspicion. What? Caldwell is almost sorry to have to burst the precious bubble of his ignorance. She's such an asshole. I already told you that the sporangia contained the spores of the hungry pathogen, but you don't seem to have taken in what that means. In its immature, asexual form, Ophiocordyceps toppled our global civilization in the space of 3 years. The only reason it didn't achieve global pandemic status at once, the only reason any pockets of uninfected humans were able to survive, was because the immature organism can only propagate neotenuously in biofluid. Doc, the sergeant says, looking pained, if you're gonna talk like a fucking encyclopedia. Blood and spit, Sergeant. It lives in blood and spit. It doesn't like to venture out into the open air, and it doesn't thrive there. But the adult form... She waves a hand over the innocuous white globe nestling at the bottom of the tank. Well, the adult form will take no prisoners. Each sporangium contains, at a rough estimate, from 1 to 10 million spores. They will be airborne and light enough to travel tens or hundreds of miles from their place of origin. If they float into the upper atmosphere, as some of them will, they could easily cross continents. They will be robust enough to survive for weeks, months, perhaps years. And if you breathe them in, you'll be infected. You can see a hungry coming, but you'll have a harder time with an organism less than a millimeter across, a harder time seeing it, and a harder time keeping it out. I estimate that's what left of Humanity 1.0 will close up shop within a month of one of these pods opening. But you said they won't open, Park says, stricken. I said they won't open by themselves. This species is a sport, a mutant form, and its development is haphazard. But sooner or later, the trigger event, whatever it is, will happen. It's only a matter of time, with the probability rising gradually towards 100%. Parks doesn't seem to have anything to say to that. He withdraws at last and leaves her to it, and although she didn't let his presence slow her down too much, she's a lot happier to be alone. What Caldwell essentially reveals here is that each of those fruiting pods, which she refers to as sporangia, contains like a bajillion seeds in it, and whatever the trigger event is that is going to make it like pop open and kind of release, think of like a dandelion releasing its fluff after most of its like life cycle has happened, whenever it's in like the form that you can blow on and the little spores kind of release into the air, that eventually that's going to happen with these pods too. And once the fungus is airborne, that's it for any remaining humans that exist in the world. She says Humanity 1.0 will close up shop within a month. So this is kind of eerily reminiscent of COVID-19. Not that COVID-19 necessarily spreads in like this extreme of a manner, but we know that it can be transmitted via particles in the air from somebody sneezing or coughing. But here we know that in its adult form, Ophiocordyceps, as she refers to it at this moment, which is kind of its full name instead of cordyceps, is going to be able to essentially wipe out humanity 1.0. What this suggests is that humans are humanity 1.0. Hungries are humanity 2.0. Okay, what does that make Melanie then? Is she humanity 1.5? Is she 3.0? What is she on the scale of human evolution? What it actually suggests, what also, whenever Caldwell is talking about humanity 1.0, is that the Hungries, through this fungal infection, are the next stage in human evolution. So that you guys have probably seen like that March of Progress image where it goes from like an ape all the way up through like a standing upright human male. That's not really a good image of the way in which human evolution worked. It's much more complicated than that. There were much more ancestors thrown in there. Also, humans are not related to Neanderthals directly. Some of us have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in us, usually like 1%, but Neanderthals are actually a different species than Homo sapien. That aside, what Caldwell is suggesting here is that that Hungries are, through the pathogen, the next stage of human evolution, which is fascinating. So what, again, does that make Melanie in terms of human evolution? It's really a kind of interesting question. So those are all things that I want you to keep in mind. This capacity for evil. Melanie is opening the Pandora's box and releasing the evil in the world. And then this kind of chain of human evolution, and the way that humans are kind of becoming more plant-like in this book. Keep all those things in mind, because for next class you're going to read all the way to the end of the novel, and I think you're going to be like, oh shit, for the end of the novel. I think it's a really amazing ending. I will talk about why in my next video. But I think it's also like a oh crap ending. Sorry again about all the cat nonsense. I hope you guys have a good day. It's Wednesday when I'm filming this, and here in good old Beaver County. Sorry, I didn't mean to make fun of it that way. It's sunny out, so maybe I can get a little bit of sunshine today. All right, you guys, stay safe.